I never thought a cat would change my life. That autumn morning, I walked into Desert Paws Shelter with divorce papers still fresh in my briefcase. The place smelled of pine cleaner and kibble, a weird mix that somehow felt comforting. "Looking for company?" The volunteer smiled, leading me through rows of cages. That's when I saw him, an orange tabby with one ear slightly bent. He looked at me with those knowing eyes, and I felt something shift inside. But as I reached for the cage door, another hand appeared. "Oh, I'm sorry." We both jumped back. I turned to face the most striking woman I'd ever seen. Blonde hair caught the fluorescent light, and those blue eyes, damn. She wore a casual outfit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "I've been visiting him for 2 weeks," she said, a slight defensive edge in her voice. "Funny, so have I." I couldn't help but smile. "I'm Madison Turner." "Callie Washington." She hesitated, then laughed. "Are we really going to fight over a cat?" The tabby meowed, pawing at both of us through the cage. Something about her laugh made my chest tight. I hadn't felt this way since, well, ever. What if? I surprised myself with the words. "What if we shared custody?" Callie raised an eyebrow. "Like divorced parents?" "I'm actually fresh out of a divorce, so I'm somewhat of an expert." The joke slipped out before I could stop it. She studied me for a moment, then broke into a grin. "That's either the craziest or most brilliant idea I've heard." We spent the next hour working out a schedule, exchanging numbers, and filling out adoption papers. The shelter staff looked at us like we were nuts, but the tabby, whom we named Winston, seemed perfectly happy with the arrangement. "So, you're an interior designer?" Callie asked as we walked to our cars. "I might need one for my new apartment." "And you're a model?" I tried to keep my voice casual. I wouldn't have guessed. A lie. She moved like someone used to being photographed. Winston settled into his carrier, purring contentedly. As I watched Callie drive away with him for the first week, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about the cat anymore. That night, I sat in my empty condo, scrolling through Callie's Instagram. Professional shots mixed with candid moments. Her laughing with friends, cuddling shelter animals, caught in quiet moments. I told myself I was just being thorough about who I was co-parenting a cat with. But deep down, I knew I was in trouble. Big trouble. The kind that starts with a shared cat and ends with something much more complicated. And somehow, I couldn't wait for next week's custody exchange. Life has a twisted sense of humor. 2 weeks after the shelter incident, I walked into my firm's conference room for a new client meeting. And there she was, Callie Washington, the woman who'd been occupying my thoughts since our shared custody arrangement began. "Madison?" Her surprise matched mine. "You're the designer for Washington Davis Agency?" I gripped my portfolio tighter. "And you're the lead model for the campaign?" Victoria West, Callie's agent, looked between us with raised eyebrows. "You two know each other?" "We share a cat," we said simultaneously, then laughed. The project was massive, redesigning their agency's headquarters while shooting their new campaign on location, which meant long hours, together, in close quarters. During the first week, I tried to maintain professional distance, but watching Callie work was mesmerizing. She transformed spaces just by existing in them, making my designs come alive in ways I hadn't imagined. "These angles are perfect," she said one evening as we reviewed photos. "You have an eye for composition," says the professional model. I smiled, acutely aware of her shoulder brushing mine. Late nights became our thing. After everyone left, we'd sit on drop cloths, eating takeout and talking about everything and nothing. Winston would visit on alternating weeks, making himself at home among the fabric swatches and paint samples. "He prefers your place," Callie admitted one night. "Probably because you spoil him," says the woman who bought him a cat tree worth more than my first car. The tension built slowly, like a summer storm. Every accidental touch, every shared laugh, every lingering look added another layer of electricity to the air between us. Then came the rooftop session. The sunset painted everything gold, including Callie's hair as she posed against the city skyline. The photographer had just left, but she stayed in position, lost in thought. "You make everything beautiful," I said softly, not meaning to speak aloud. She turned, catching me in those blue eyes. "Even shared custody arrangements?" "Especially those." My heart hammered against my ribs. She moved closer, her perfume mixing with the evening air. Madison. Yes? I think I'm about to complicate our custody arrangement. Her lips met mine as the last rays of sun disappeared behind the mountains. It wasn't a passionate kiss from the movies. It was softer, questioning, tasting of coffee and possibility. When we pulled apart, the city lights were twinkling below us. Well, I whispered. Winston's going to need therapy. She laughed against my lips, then kissed me again. This time, there was nothing questioning about it. Later that night, I sat in my car, touching my lips where hers had been. Everything had changed, and I wasn't sure if I was terrified or elated. Probably both. My phone buzzed with a text from Callie. Winston approves. He told me so. I smiled, typing back. Of course he does. He planned this all along. The city sparkled around me, and for the first time since my divorce, I felt truly, wonderfully alive. Though I couldn't help wondering, what happens when a casual custody arrangement turns into something that makes your heart race every time you hear her name? Winston watched us from his perch on my kitchen counter, tail twitching with feline judgment as Callie and I attempted to cook dinner together. 2 weeks had passed since the rooftop kiss, and we'd fallen into a rhythm that felt both exciting and terrifying. You're burning the garlic, Callie noted, sliding behind me to adjust the heat. Her presence made my skin tingle. That's because someone's distracting me. I turned to face her, and she stole a quick kiss. These domestic moments felt surreal. The successful model who graced magazine covers now stood in my kitchen, wearing my oversized sweater, looking more beautiful than in any photo shoot. Can we talk about this? I asked, gesturing between us. Whatever this is? Callie's expression softened. Do we have to label it? I've never. I paused, searching for words. I've never felt this way about a woman before. She took my hands, thumbs tracing circles on my palms. Neither have I. Scared? Terrified. I laughed nervously, but in a good way. That night, we abandoned our burnt dinner for takeout, sitting cross-legged on my living room floor. Winston prowled between us, demanding attention from both his mothers. My agent would flip if she knew, Callie mused, feeding Winston a piece of chicken. She's already suspicious about how much time we spend together. Are you worried about your career? I'm more worried about not exploring this. She met my eyes. Whatever this is. The rain started suddenly, drumming against the windows. Callie suggested a walk, and I thought she was crazy until we were outside, laughing as the warm summer rain soaked through our clothes. She pulled me under a store awning, both of us dripping and breathless. You're shivering, she observed, pulling me closer. It's a good shiver. My voice came out husky. The kiss was different this time, urgent, needy. Her hands tangled in my wet hair, and I pressed her against the storefront, not caring who might see. We made it back to my apartment, leaving a trail of wet clothes. That night, we discovered each other slowly, tenderly, with the rain providing a soundtrack and Winston tactfully retreating to another room. Morning found us tangled in sheets, Callie's blonde hair spread across my pillow. Winston had reclaimed his spot between us, purring contentedly. Morning, Callie smiled, looking impossibly beautiful in the soft light. Morning. I traced her collarbone with my finger. Still here. Did you think I'd disappear? Sometimes this feels like a dream. She kissed me softly. Then let's not wake up. Over breakfast, we talked about everything we'd been avoiding. Her fears about the industry's reaction, my uncertainty about coming out later in life, the complexity of our feelings. We could keep it private, she suggested, but her tone suggested she didn't like the idea. Or we could be brave, I countered, surprising myself. Winston meowed in apparent agreement, making us both laugh. Later, as Callie left for a shoot, she paused at the door. Madison? I'm falling for you, not just a little bit. My heart soared. Good, because I'm already there. She left with a smile that could light up the city, and I stood in my doorway, watching her go. Winston rubbed against my legs, purring. Yeah, I told him. You did good, matchmaker. The morning light streamed through my windows, illuminating the space where we'd shared our first night together. Everything had changed, yet somehow, it felt like everything had finally fallen into place. The first hint of trouble came during a routine meeting at Callie's agency. Victoria West's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her desk as she reviewed the latest campaign photos. "These are intimate," she said, eyeing a shot where Callie lounged against my newest design installation. "That's the concept," I defended. "Bringing life to spaces." Victoria's gaze cut between us. "The chemistry is obvious, too obvious." After the meeting, she held Callie back. I lingered in the hallway, pretending to check emails while straining to hear their conversation. "The conservative clients are watching," Victoria's voice carried. "Your image needs to stay marketable." Callie emerged looking shaken. "She thinks we're being reckless." That evening, curled up with Winston in my apartment, we tried to laugh it off, but the weight of reality pressed down on us like a heavy blanket. "My biggest client called today," I admitted, stroking Winston's fur. "Canceled their contract after seeing us at that restaurant last week." "Damn." Callie sat up straighter. "Madison, I'm so sorry." "Don't be. They were awful anyway." I attempted a smile. Always wanted everything in beige. But the hits kept coming. Whispers followed Callie at shoots. A major fashion house postponed her upcoming campaign. My more traditional clients started finding excuses to delay projects. The pressure peaked during a charity event where we were both working. Callie was modeling my designs, and everything was professional until someone caught us sharing a private moment in the garden. "Miss Washington," a photographer called out, "is this why you've been turning down male model partnerships?" Callie froze. I felt her hand slip from mine. That night, she paced my living room, while Winston watched from his perch. "Maybe we should cool things down publicly." "Hide, you mean?" The word tasted bitter. "Be strategic," she corrected. "Until the campaign launches." I thought about my dwindling client list, about the whispers and sideways glances. Then I thought about waking up to her smile, about shared coffee and stolen kisses. "No," I said firmly. "No? I spent years designing perfect rooms for other people's lives. I'm done hiding." She stopped pacing. "Madison, I love you," I blurted out. "And I'm not going back in any closet, no matter how beautifully designed." The silence stretched between us, broken only by Winston's soft purring. Then Callie laughed, a sound of pure relief. "Thank God," she breathed, crossing the room to kiss me. "Because I love you too." The next morning, we walked into the agency hand in hand. Victoria's face turned several interesting shades of red. "You're making a mistake," she warned. "No," Callie replied calmly. "I'm finally being honest. We lost some clients, gained others. A younger, more progressive design firm reached out, loving the authenticity of our work together. See? I told Winston that evening, as he supervised our takeout dinner. Sometimes the best designs come from breaking the rules. Callie snuggled closer on the couch. "Think we should tell Victoria about our shared custody arrangement? Let's save something for the memoir." As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows through my newly designed windows, I realized something. Sometimes the biggest professional risks lead to the most personal rewards. "What are you thinking about?" Callie asked, noticing my contemplative mood. "How grateful I am that you tried to steal my cat." "Our cat," she corrected, kissing me softly. Winston meowed in agreement, and we laughed, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together, our unconventional little family, breaking rules and making our own designs for happiness. The night everything changed started perfectly. We were celebrating 6 months together at La Maison, that fancy French place downtown where the waiters judge your wine choices. Callie wore a black dress that made my heart stop, and I'd actually managed to tame my hair for once. "To us," she raised her glass, "and to Winston, our furry matchmaker." "Who's probably destroying my curtains right now," I added, making her laugh. We talked about everything, the new inclusive design campaign we'd launched, the progressive clients who'd embraced our partnership, our plans to move in together. "I never thought I'd find this," Callie said softly, reaching across the table. "Someone who makes me feel so real," I finished, squeezing her hand. The dessert was divine, the wine perfect. Everything felt magical, like we were in our own bubble of happiness. We should have known the universe had other plans. It happened on the drive home. Callie was telling me about Winston's latest adventure with her expensive throw pillows. The last thing I remember is her laugh, bright and clear in the dark car. Then, headlights, bright, blinding, coming from the wrong direction. The screech of tires, the sickening crunch of metal. Darkness. I woke to the steady beep of hospital monitors and my brother James's worried face. "Hey sis," he said softly. "You're okay. You're safe." "Callie?" My voice was raw, desperate. His hesitation told me everything. "She's alive," he assured quickly. "But Madison, there's something you need to know." The words came in fragments through my morphine haze. Head trauma, memory loss, the last 6 months, gone. "She doesn't remember anything since spring," the doctor explained gently. "The accident seems to have affected her recent memory formation." "She doesn't remember me?" The words felt like glass in my throat. "She remembers you as the interior designer from the campaign. Nothing more." I insisted on seeing her, despite everyone's protests. They wheeled me to her room, where she lay looking impossibly fragile among the white sheets. "Miss Turner?" Her voice was polite, professional, empty of the love that usually colored my name. "Victoria mentioned you were in the accident too." "I'm so sorry." I forced a smile, feeling my heart shatter. "Please, call me Madison." "The doctors say we were together that night?" She looked confused. "Were we discussing the campaign?" Each word was a knife. "Something like that." Back in my room, I broke down in James's arms. "She doesn't remember any of it. The shelter, Winston, us. Give her time," he soothed. "The memories might come back." But the doctors weren't optimistic. The trauma had created a clean break in her memory, they said. Pushing too hard could cause more damage. Victoria arrived the next day, all business. "This might be for the best," she said quietly. "A fresh start for everyone." I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded numbly. That night, alone in my hospital room, I scrolled through photos on my phone. Callie and Winston napping in sunbeams. Our first proper date. Countless stolen moments of happiness. A nurse found me crying and offered extra pain medication. But how do you explain that the physical pain is nothing compared to watching the love of your life look at you like a stranger? Winston was waiting when James brought me home. He meowed questioningly, looking for Callie. "I know, buddy," I whispered, tears falling into his fur. "I miss her too." On my phone, a text from Victoria. "Callie's being released tomorrow. I think it's best if you keep your distance for now." I stared at our last photo together, taken at dinner just before the accident. We looked so happy, so certain of our future. Now all those plans, all those dreams, existed only in my memories, and I was the only one left carrying them. Pretending to be just the interior designer was the hardest role I'd ever played. 2 weeks after the accident, I returned to the agency to continue our contract work. Every meeting felt like an exercise in emotional endurance. "These color schemes are perfect," Callie said during our first session back. "You really understand what I need." If only she knew how well. I kept my responses professional, buried my feelings beneath fabric swatches and paint samples. But sometimes, when she wasn't looking, I'd catch myself staring at the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, a gesture so familiar it hurt. Winston became my sole connection to our shared past. The custody arrangement presented a challenge I hadn't anticipated. "I didn't know you had a cat," Callie remarked one day, spotting his photo on my phone. "Oh yes, this is Winston." I hesitated. "Actually, he's technically yours too." Her confusion was painful to watch. "Mine?" "We adopted him together. As friends," I added quickly. "Joint custody arrangement. That sounds unusual." She laughed, the same laugh that used to be reserved for our private moments. "You could visit him," I offered, heart pounding. "He misses you." She agreed, and watching her with Winston nearly broke me. He remembered everything, running to her immediately, purring as she scratched his favorite spots she'd forgotten she knew. "He really likes me," she said, surprised. "He always has." These visits became our new normal. She'd come over, supposedly to see Winston, and we'd talk. Sometimes I caught glimpses of the old Callie, in her laugh, her gestures, the way she'd look at me when she thought I wasn't noticing. "I feel strange sometimes," she admitted during one visit. "Like I'm missing something important." "What do you mean?" "It's like déjà vu, but stronger, especially around She trailed off, looking at me with confusion. I wanted to tell her everything. About our first kiss on the rooftop, about lazy Sunday mornings with Winston between us, about how she'd whispered, "I love you," against my skin. Instead, I said, "Memory is complicated." One evening, she arrived looking troubled. "I found something today." My heart stopped as she pulled out her phone. This was in my gallery. It was a photo of us, taken by James at a family dinner. We were looking at each other, clearly in love, clearly more than friends. "I can explain," I started. "Were we?" She struggled with the words. "Were we together?" The moment stretched between us, heavy with possibility and pain. "Yes," I whispered finally. "We were." She sat down heavily, Winston immediately climbing into her lap. "Why didn't you tell me?" "The doctor said not to push, that you needed to remember on your own." "So instead, you've been pretending? Hurting alone?" Tears threatened to fall. "I didn't want to lose you completely." She reached out, touching my hand hesitantly. "I feel safe with you, comfortable. I thought it was just because you're easy to work with, but maybe some part of me remembers." Winston purred louder, as if encouraging us. "I should go," she said suddenly, standing. "I need to think." At the door, she turned back. "Madison?" "Yes?" "Were we happy?" I smiled through my tears. "Incredibly." After she left, I sat with Winston, who looked as confused as I felt. "What do you think, buddy? Should I have told her sooner?" He just blinked at me, wise and inscrutable as ever. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the photo, about her reaction, about the possibility that somewhere, buried beneath the trauma, our love still existed. My phone lit up with a text. "I may not remember our past, but I'd like to know our story. Coffee tomorrow?" For the first time since the accident, I felt something like hope. Coffee turned into lunch, which turned into daily conversations about our past. I felt like I was narrating someone else's love story, watching Callie's face for any flicker of recognition. "So we really met fighting over Winston?" She smiled, scratching behind his ears as we sat in my living room. "You were ready to duel me for him," I teased, trying to ignore how natural this felt. She spent more time scrolling through her phone now, piecing together the months she'd lost. Each discovery brought new questions. "There are so many photos of us," she mused one evening. "We look happy." We were. She found videos, 2 silly moments we'd captured, her teaching me to walk in heels, us singing off-key while cooking, Winston's first attempt at climbing the Christmas tree we'd put up early. "I sound different in these," she noted. "More free." The breakthrough came during a design session at the agency. We were reviewing fabric samples when our hands brushed, a simple touch, but Callie froze. "The rooftop," she whispered. "What?" "We kissed on the rooftop." Her eyes were distant, remembering. "At sunset. You said I make everything beautiful." My heart stopped. "You remember?" It's like watching a movie through fog. But yes, that moment. It's clear. More memories started surfacing after that. Small things at first. The name of my favorite takeout place, which side of the bed she preferred, Winston's favorite toy. "It's strange," she said during one of our now frequent dinners. "I'll be doing something normal, and suddenly I'll remember how it felt to be with you." The line between past and present began to blur. Sometimes she'd catch herself reaching for my hand, then pull back, confused by her own instincts. One rainy evening, reviewing designs in my office, she found an old sketch. "This was for our place," she said suddenly. "We were planning to move in together." "Yes," I admitted. "We were looking at apartments." She traced the drawing with her finger. "I remember being excited about the window seat, for Winston." Then she looked up at me, really looked at me, and something shifted in her eyes. "Madison." "Yes?" She moved closer, hesitant but determined. "I remember how you taste like coffee in the morning." My breath caught. "Callie." The kiss was soft, questioning, different from our first kiss, but somehow just as meaningful. When she pulled back, her eyes were wide. "That felt familiar?" I suggested. "Like coming home." Winston chose that moment to jump between us, making us both laugh. The tension broke, but something had fundamentally changed. I still don't remember everything, she said later, as we watched the rain. But I remember how I felt about you, feel about you. And how's that? She took my hand, intertwining our fingers. Like, you're the most important part of the story I forgot. That night, she stayed. Not like before, this was new, tentative. We talked until dawn, rebuilding our history piece by piece. Tell me more, she'd say, curled against me. Tell me everything. So I did. About our fights over Winston's diet. About the time we got lost hiking and found that perfect sunset view. About all the small moments that made us us. And as I talked, I watched her eyes light up with recognition, piece by piece, memory by memory. I may not remember everything, she whispered as sleep finally claimed us, but I remember enough to know I want to make new memories with you. Winston purred from his spot at our feet, a constant through all our changes. Some things, it seemed, were strong enough to survive even the deepest forgetting. The letters were hidden in a shoebox at the back of her closet. Callie found them while looking for a portfolio, and suddenly our carefully paced reunion shattered. My love, she read aloud, her voice shaking. Today you wore that blue dress, the one that matches your eyes, and I forgot how to breathe. I stood frozen in her doorway, Winston winding anxiously around my legs. The letters were mine, dozens of them, written during our time together. Some I'd given her, others I'd been too shy to share. Madison. Her voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me about these? I didn't know you'd kept them. She pulled out another letter. Sometimes I watch you sleep and wonder how I got so lucky. Winston snores louder than you do. Tears fell onto the paper. I couldn't tell if they were hers or mine. There's more. She emptied the box. Photos, movie tickets, a pressed flower from our first official date. A sketch of her sleeping, Winston curled against her chest. I remember this, she whispered, touching the flower. You bought me sunflowers because I said they were too happy to be sophisticated. You put one behind your ear. And you said, she closed her eyes. You said I made even sunflowers look elegant. The memories came faster now, triggered by each item she touched. The movie tickets, we saw that awful horror film. You hated it. I pretended to be scared so I could hold your hand. I sat beside her, surrounded by the physical evidence of our love. You remember? It's like a dam breaking. She picked up another letter. I remember everything about us but nothing about the accident. Why can't I remember that night? Maybe some memories are better left lost. She turned to me suddenly, eyes fierce. Why did you let me push you away? Why didn't you fight harder? Because I love you, I said simply. Enough to let you find your way back on your own terms. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words and rediscovered feelings. Read me another letter, she whispered finally. So I did. Letter after letter, our story unfolded again. Some made us laugh, others brought fresh tears. Winston settled between us, offering silent support. My dearest Callie, I read from the last one, dated just before the accident. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you to move in with me. Properly, not just the back and forth we've been doing. Winston has already approved. She stopped me with a kiss. This one wasn't gentle or questioning. It was hungry, desperate, full of lost time and found memories. I remember loving you, she breathed against my lips. I remember everything. Everything? The way you take your coffee. How you hum while you work. The exact shade of green your eyes turn when you're happy. Each memory was a gift, a piece of us reconstructed. I was so scared, she admitted, when the memories started coming back. It felt like falling in love with a stranger who was somehow also my soulmate. And now? Now I'm just falling in love with you all over again. Both versions, the one in my memories, and the one who was patient enough to wait for me to remember. Winston meowed, making us both laugh through our tears. He never forgot, I said, scratching his ears. Smarter than both of us. She gathered the letters carefully. Will you help me put these somewhere safe? We could make new memories to go with them. She smiled. That brilliant smile I'd fallen in love with twice now. I'd like that. That night, we read more letters, shared more memories, and began writing our new chapter. The past wasn't fully healed, but it was ours again, every messy, beautiful moment of it. Stay, she whispered as midnight approached. So I did, Winston purring contentedly as our little family reunited, stronger for having been broken and rebuilt. Rebuilding a relationship is like renovating a house. You need to be careful with the foundation while creating something new. After the letters, Callie and I took things slowly, rediscovering each other one memory at a time. "Show me," she'd say. "Show me what I loved before." So I did. I took her to all our old places, the tiny Italian restaurant where we'd had our first real date, the park where we'd walked Winston on Sunday mornings, the rooftop where we'd first kissed. "I remember the sunset," she said as we stood there. "But not the nervousness. Tell me how it felt." "Like standing on the edge of something enormous." I took her hand. "Like finally finding home." We recreated moments, making new memories alongside the old ones. Some things were different. She developed a taste for spicy food during her recovery, and I'd learned to be more patient. "It's strange," she said one evening, watching me cook. "I remember loving you, but I'm also falling in love with you all over again." Winston supervised our reunion with feline wisdom, dividing his time equally between us as if to ensure neither felt neglected. The breakthrough came during a routine visit to the animal shelter where we'd first met. We'd started volunteering there together, part of our healing process. "Madison," Callie called from the cat room. "Come here." An orange tabby kitten sat in her lap, one ear slightly bent, just like Winston. "Remind you of someone?" I smiled. "I remember everything about that day," she said softly. "The way you reached for the cage at the same time I did. How our hands touched. The ridiculous custody arrangement we came up with. Not so ridiculous. It worked." She looked up at me, eyes shining. "Take me on our first date again." So we did. Same restaurant, same table by the window. But this time, when she reached for my hand across the table, it felt like both an echo and something entirely new. "Tell me what you're thinking," she said. "I'm thinking about how lucky I am to fall in love with you twice." The kiss we shared tasted like wine and possibility. That weekend, we took an impromptu trip to the coast. Callie remembered loving the ocean but couldn't recall our previous visits. "Make new memories with me," she said as we walked along the beach. Winston had stayed with James, giving us space to reconnect. We spent hours talking, sharing stories, both old and new. "I remember the moment I first knew I loved you," she said, watching the waves. "You were dancing in your living room trying to teach Winston to twirl. That was before the rooftop kiss. I was already yours. Just too scared to admit it." Later that night, in our hotel room, we made love like it was both the first and 100th time. Every touch carried the weight of memory and discovery. "Stay with me," she whispered against my skin. "Always." The next morning, watching her sleep, I realized something profound. We weren't just recovering what was lost. We were building something stronger. Back home, Callie started leaving little notes around my apartment, just like she used to. But these were different. They marked new memories alongside recovered ones. "Remember when we burned dinner here, both times? This is where you first told me about the letters." Winston's favorite sunbeam spot, past and present. Each note was a bridge between then and now, marking our progress in reclaiming us. "I think I'm ready," she said one evening, curled up with Winston. "For what?" "To make new plans, real ones, not just recreating the past." The smile she gave me was pure Callie, both versions of her, perfectly merged. "I love you," I said. "All of you, past, present, and whatever comes next. Even the parts I still can't remember. Especially those, because we get to discover them together." Winston purred his approval as we kissed, our little family whole again in ways both old and new. Moving in together the second time around felt different. Callie remembered most things now, except for that fateful night of the accident. But maybe that was a blessing. Some memories are better left in shadow. "This goes here," she said confidently, placing a vase on the windowsill of our new apartment. "And Winston's bed goes by the fireplace. You remember the layout we planned?" "Most of it." She smiled. "The rest just feels right." We'd chosen a different place than our original plan. A loft with huge windows and exposed brick walls. A fresh start, but with echoes of our past choices. Winston supervised the move with his usual dignity, claiming various boxes as his temporary thrones. He seemed pleased to finally have both his humans under one roof permanently. "I found these," Callie said one evening, pulling out the old design sketches I'd made for our first planned home. "We should frame them." "Really?" "They're part of our story, even the parts we didn't get to live." The memories continued returning in waves. She'd wake up sometimes, excited to share a recovered moment. "The time you tried to teach me to cook risotto." "Our first Christmas shopping trip." "That horrible karaoke night." But the night of the accident remained blank. It bothered her more than she admitted. "I should remember," she said one night, staring out at the city lights. "It was such an important moment." I wrapped my arms around her from behind. "Maybe it's not about what we lost, but what we found again." She turned in my embrace. "When did you get so wise?" "Probably around the time I had to fall in love with you twice." The decision to move forward with our lives came naturally. Callie started taking more local modeling jobs, wanting to stay close to home. I launched my own design firm, specializing in inclusive spaces. "We should do something special," she said one morning, watching the sun rise from our bed. "To mark new beginnings." That's when I knew it was time. The ring had been waiting in my desk drawer, saved from before the accident. I chose the rooftop of our new building. Set up dinner, lights, flowers. Winston even wore a bow tie for the occasion. "This feels familiar," Callie said, taking in the setup. "Good familiar?" "The best kind." We ate, talked, laughed. When the sun started setting, I took her hand. "Callie Washington," I began, heart racing. "Wait." She reached into her purse, pulled out a small box. We both burst out laughing. "Great minds," she said, opening her box to reveal a ring. "You remembered I was going to propose that night?" "No," she smiled. "I just knew I wanted to propose this night." So we did it together, there on the rooftop with Winston as our witness. Both of us on one knee, both of us crying and laughing. "I may not remember everything," she said, slipping the ring on my finger. "But I remember enough to know I want forever with you." "Even without the missing pieces?" "Especially without them. Because we got to fall in love twice." I placed my ring on her finger. "To new memories?" "And old ones. All of them, recovered or not." Winston meowed his approval as we kissed, the city sparkling around us like stars fallen to earth. Later that night, tangled in sheets and happiness, Callie traced patterns on my skin. "You know what I just remembered?" "What?" "The first time you said you loved me, you were half asleep talking to Winston about his diet." I laughed. "That sounds like me." "It was perfect." She kissed me softly. "Just like this is perfect." And it was. Not because everything was the same as before, but because we'd built something new from the pieces of our past. "I love you," I whispered. "Every version of you. Past, present, and future," she agreed. Winston curled between us, purring his contentment at having his family complete at last. 1 year after the accident, we returned to Desert Paws Shelter, not for closure but for celebration. The place hadn't changed. Same pine cleaner smell, same fluorescent lights, same hope lingering in every corner. "Remember this spot?" I asked, standing where we'd first reached for Winston's cage. "Better than ever," Callie smiled, squeezing my hand. Our wedding rings caught the light. We decided to mark our anniversary by giving back. The shelter's director beamed as we presented our donation, enough to renovate the entire cat wing. "And we'd like to volunteer regularly," Callie added. "Maybe start a photography project for the animals?" Using my designs as backdrops, I chimed in. "Help them find homes." The idea had come to us naturally, combining our skills, Callie's modeling experience, my design work, to help other animals find their own happily ever afters. Winston supervised from his carrier, proud as ever. He'd adapted well to being our family's elder statesman. "Should we tell them?" Callie whispered as we toured the facility. "It's your call." She grinned, turning to the director. "We'd like to see the orange tabby kitten." "The one with the bent ear?" The same kitten from months ago sat in the cage, looking at us with familiar wisdom. "She's still here," the director said. "Been waiting for the right family." "Just like Winston was." I smiled. The paperwork felt familiar. Same forms, same promises. But this time, no custody arrangement needed. What should we name her? Callie asked as we drove home. How about Memory? She laughed. 2 on the nose? Perfect, I decided. At home, we watched Winston meet his new sister. They circled each other before Memory decided Winston's tail was the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. I remembered something, Callie said suddenly, about the accident. I froze. You don't have to. No, it's good. She smiled. I remembered what I was about to say right before the crash. I was going to tell you I wanted to start a family. Oh, Callie. And look at us now. She gestured to our expanded family, Winston showing Memory the best sunbeam spots, our rings glinting in the light, the wall of framed memories behind us. We did it anyway, I realized. Some things are meant to be, memory loss or not. Later that evening, we sat in our newly launched studio, a combination of my design firm and Callie's modeling agency. The walls showcased our shelter project, stunning photographs of animals in beautifully designed spaces, each telling a story of hope. To think this all started with a custody battle over a cat, Callie mused. Best custody battle ever. Memory curled up with Winston in their shared bed, already inseparable. You know what this means? Callie grinned. What? Our family's complete. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd fallen in love with twice, the one who'd fought her way back to me through the fog of forgotten memories. Not quite, I said. She raised an eyebrow. The shelter just got 3 new kittens. Her laugh echoed through our home, bright and clear and full of promise. Some people spend their whole lives searching for love. I was lucky enough to find it twice, with the same amazing woman. And as we sat there, surrounded by our furry family and the life we'd built together, I realized something profound. Sometimes the best memories aren't the ones we recover, but the ones we choose to make next. I love you, Callie whispered, reading my thoughts as always. I love you too. All of you, always. Winston and Memory purred in harmony, a perfect soundtrack to our imperfect, beautiful life. And that's how our story really began, not with memory loss or recovery, but with the simple truth that love, like cats, always finds its way home.